Hey, I'm Kyle Parrish. I'm running for Congress in North Carolina's 7th District. Please take the time to like this video and subscribe if you like what you hear or you don't like what you hear and you just want to learn more. But follow along with my candidacy and let's see where this takes us. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about two conservative principles. And those two conservative principles that I want to discuss are individual freedom and limited government. They are bedrock principles of people who claim to be conservatives. And so what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit of my head scratching around those two principles and the way they're being enacted in today's environment. So a couple of years ago, North Carolina had one of its counties pass an ordinance basically that said, look, anybody that identifies with any other gender than the one on their birth certificate can use whatever bathroom they want. So if you want to go to the restroom, you can choose whichever bathroom you want, right? Well, this was completely unacceptable to these conservatives who, on one hand, talk about individual freedom, and on the other hand, absolutely lost it over this. And so what they ended up doing was preempting that county's ordinance to allow transgendered folks to use whatever restroom they want with a law called HB 2 that did two things effectively. It basically said, first, no locality anywhere in the state of North Carolina is allowed to pass an anti-discrimination ordinance, right? And the second part of this was, in all schools had to force anyone who was in their schools to use the restroom that was assigned to whatever they had been designated on their birth certificate. So I have real trouble footing that with individual freedom is paramount, right? Especially since, I don't know about you, but I go into bathrooms all the time and I really don't pay attention to who else is in there, and I've never been harassed, and there's actually more Republican congressmen documented harassing people in bathrooms than there are transgendered people. But the limited government preaching side of the North Carolina legislature decided that they were going to pass a whole law to prevent people from choosing where they wanted to go to the restroom. Literally, it was a huge thing, and they lost a bunch of business, and they got a bunch of bad press. But in the midst of this, I was talking to my neighbor across the street, and the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I think the way the conversation went is very prescient to where Republicanism has gone. And it was because when we were talking about this, he's a conservative, I'm a pretty liberal guy, we're out there having this conversation, and I say to him, I kind of don't understand the whole reactionary response to this. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, there's really no evidence that anyone's going into bathrooms and bothering anybody. And he's like, yeah, but what if, men can go in there now and go to the women's restroom and they can dress as women and go in there and this type of thing. I'm like, okay. I'm like, great. I'm like, but don't you believe in local governance? Yes. States' powers and local governance is a big deal. I said, then how do you reconcile that with the fact that the state decided that that locality couldn't make a decision on what it wanted to do? And his response was, well, they're wrong. Well, they're wrong. So it didn't matter to him that those people who were self-governing had made a choice because he disagreed with it. So it was okay for them to come in and step on those people and change their choice. And guess what? When you look at what Greg Abbott is doing now, and you look at what Ron DeSantis is doing now, they are a superset of what he said. When we say Ron DeSantis, I thought you were in favor of localities ruling themselves. And let's take it back, 60 years on busing or whatever. Maybe he wasn't, but the same conservative thinkers were like, no, we should be able to have whoever we want in whatever schools we want. They defended local rule incredibly hard because they agreed with it. But when they say, but they're wrong, all of their other principles go out the window. Individual freedom is gone. Local rule is gone. Preemption is the rule. And enforcement by a bigger government is required. This is not conservatism. This is not limited government. This is not freedom and liberty. And now, when school districts and localities decide that they want to do mask mandates, and they are told by a governor they cannot, that is in direct opposition to the principles that these people say they hold so dear. When you go into a grocery store and you're harassed by someone because you're wearing a mask and they're not, and they call you a sheeple or whatever, that has nothing to do with conservative principles. The Republican Party has gone off the rails, and it goes back to what that guy said, and he is not one of these people. I want to be very clear. I still really like the guy. But they're wrong. But they're wrong. We can't have a country that is governed by a group of people who govern by the principle of, but they're wrong. We need to make sure we stay to the rule of law. We need to stick to our principles, and we need to protect everybody's freedoms, not just a few. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.